You're nothing to me but another dead vampire.
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. I want to talk about a little small movie called Blade from back in 1998. Now I'll tell you my introduction to Blade first of all. Obviously we all know Blade as this really big Marvel character now, most associated with Wesley Snipes of course. But when I first seen this movie, well before I saw the movie, I went to my local video store and when you know this yourself guys if you're old enough like me, when you go into the video store and you see the newest movies out, they've got more copies of those on the shelf. And when I saw Blade was on the front and you see like all the orange covers all over the place, I'm like, what is that movie? I know who Wesley Snipes is and I really like Wesley Snipes. So let me check this action movie out. I didn't even know it was a vampire film. I didn't even look at the back of it. I just thought I'm going to rent that one because it's the biggest movie of the week. Took it home. I quickly realised it was a vampire movie. I had no idea it was Marvel. You know, when you're younger, you don't look at the credits at the start. So you don't see that it was executively produced by Stan Lee. You don't see that it's in association with Marvel or anything like that. You just watch the movie. And when I watched it, and you see that scene in the nightclub, I was like, whoa. What is this movie? This is a really good action vampire film. And at the time, I loved it so much that I waited a couple of years. I think it was a year or so, maybe even the same year. And I bought it on DVD. And I didn't even have a DVD player at the time. I just bought it on DVD in anticipation for me getting a DVD player. That's how much I loved this movie. And when I watched it recently, I think I still love it just as much. When I was watching it, I watched it with my son and I remembered all the lines in the film. I hadn't seen it for years. I remembered all the lines. I remember absolutely everything that happened in the film. And that's because the movie stuck with me over 20 to 25 years. You know, the movie is 25 years old now. So let's look into the things that I really liked about it. But obviously there are things that I've dated and are things I thought, oh, maybe that could have changed. Going back to that opening scene, first of all, that scene was incredible. Even watching it now, I thought, wow, this scene is great. When I watched this scene in particular today, that's something that would really fit into a movie in today's world. It seems like it's so far advanced, way ahead of its time from when it first came out. And you don't really see scenes like that anymore. You know, there's things like that would fit well into a John Wick movie in today's world. That's how well this part was done. And it wasn't just the beginning of the movie that was great. There was other parts throughout the film. That's just one scene that obviously sticks with us. It's a fantastic cast as well. You've got Chris Christopherson, you've got Stephen Dorff, N. Bush Wright, Wesley Snipes. You've also got Donald Logue, who plays Quinn, who was probably my favourite character out with Blade, of course. But Quinn was so charismatic and annoying, but also you wanted to see him getting really cut up by Blade, only to survive and then be tortured by Blade again. And that's exactly what happened in the film. Something that I did notice was there was a lot of this story crammed into one film. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying there was a lot to get through in a 2-hour movie. It was just around about 2 hours. You had Blade, of course, you had his origins, you had Whistler, how they two met. You've got the current story that's going on with Karen, the nurse, who's trying to save her. Then you've also got Deacon Frost, who's a bad guy. He's trying to bring back La Magra. So there's a lot happening in this film. Not only that, you've also got with the origins of Blade, how he was formed or how he was born and his mum dying, only to see his mum again later on in the movie and him trying to make a decision whether am I going to save you or am I going to kill you. So there was a lot to get through in 2 hours. I would look at this film and think to myself, if this was made today, this movie would serve well in the one story as a trilogy. But regardless of that, they were very ambitious. The movie was probably more ambitious than the budget that they had. But the good thing is, with the budget they had and with as ambitious that they were, I think it really worked. They really used the money well and they made a fantastic film. Now, there are some things that obviously don't work in today's world. For example, the choreography. The choreography was good for its time, but when you watch the choreography now, it's very dated, of course. Even with the choreography, you get weird sound effects that you wouldn't see in today's world or hear in today's world. In fact, it just felt so funny at times that I'm thinking, oh, it's like choreography sound that you would hear in an old 80s Japanese or Chinese action movie. Obviously the CGI was dated too. When I watched this film for the first time and I seen when Blade was killing people and they were turning into dust and you could just see their bones disappearing as well, at the time I was completely blown away by that. I would actually rewind some of the scenes and see them do it again and again, and I'd say, wow, how did they do that? It looks so realistic, and it did. It looked fantastic back in 1998, 1999, but looking at today, it's obviously dated. So when you look at it, when I was watching it with my son, I was kind of worried that he wouldn't like it because of that, but he did say as well, you know, for a film that's 25 years old, the CGI doesn't look bad at all. The CGI looks pretty decent. Even today, there are some movies out there that you can tell are really bad. Like, for example, Fast X, that cost $340 million that just came out this year. You can tell that sometimes they were on a green screen, it was that bad. So when you compare it to movies today, it's not that bad, to be honest. I remember when I did watch it, it did feel more horror back in the day than it does now. When I watch it now, it does look more actiony than it does horror, but I can still see the horror elements because you can get a few jump scares in the film, which was great, and it was definitely a horror movie, and it did warrant the rated R or the rated 18 in the UK, wherever you're from. It did warrant it because there's a lot of blood in it, a lot of action, and a lot of really horrible scenes, but I think maybe, just maybe, they could have given us a little bit more horror. In terms of the characters themselves, I haven't looked into it too much. I don't know how well the comic books go with the movie itself. I know for a fact, because of what I saw at the beginning, the credit scene, that Deacon Frost and Blade are definitely characters in the Blade comics, but I don't know about anyone else. I don't know if Whistler was a character. He probably was. I don't know if he was originally a character in the first comics. I don't know if Quinn was a character in the comics. It's something I would need to look into personally, but I know that Frost and Blade were characters in the comics, but in the movie, those two were probably my favourite characters anyway. When you look at Blade in terms of Marvel itself, I know that some people say Iron Man brought Marvel back, Spider-Man from 2002 brought Marvel back, but no, not at all. Before Blade, we only had one Marvel movie that was in the cinemas, and that was Howard the Duck, and that wasn't a success at all. I think it cost about $30 to $37 million, and it only made round about that back at the box office. Where you've got Blade, it was the very first Marvel success, and after Blade came out, they thought to themselves, we could actually bring out more Marvel films, all thanks to Blade. So it's not thanks to Spider-Man, it's not thanks to Iron Man, it's not thanks to the MCU and Kevin Feige, it's all thanks to the very first successful Marvel movie in Blade, and that just happened to be a horror film.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
So what are your thoughts on Blade, guys? Don't talk about the sequels, because I think I'll probably do the sequels in the future as well. I'll maybe watch them and talk about them. But what do you think about the original Blade? Do you agree with me? Do you think that Blade was the movie that put Marvel back on the map? And if you don't think so, that's absolutely fine. But leave your comments down below anyway, guys. And thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
To get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
I want to know!